The next generation is less than a year away. We already have an idea on some of the massive next-gen experiences that we'll see, which includes Bethesda's The Elder Scrolls 6, Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 6, and Ubisoft's Beyond Good and Evil 2. These are ambitious games, still likely years away, but they will utilize the power of Sony's Project Prospero, which is the codename for the PlayStation 5, and Microsoft's Project Scarlett, which is the codename for their next Xbox, which at this point doesn't have a confirmed name, although some rumors indicate it could be just Xbox 2. Either way, today we're going to fully dive into these next-gen consoles and detail how they compare against each other, from hardware to design to system software to features to cost to maybe the most important thing, games. Hopefully this will give you better insight on what to expect from the future of gaming and how both Microsoft and Sony are building consoles that will open up many doors for developers, giving them the ability to do amazing, unique things with their games that up to this point in time have not been possible. So, nonetheless, Xbox, which reportedly has been behind on communication with their next-gen plans, certainly is making it clear that they are ready for 2020, one of the biggest years ever in gaming. Now, there's quite a few people that feel the next generation of consoles is too early, with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One not being pushed to their limits like the previous console generation was. Personally, I think that is a valid point and a completely understandable criticism, but regardless, the next generation is coming in holiday 2020, and it will most definitely be an interesting battle of Sony versus Microsoft.
The most powerful and highest performing console we've ever designed. Built for creators to unleash their boldest creative visions and optimized for players to enjoy the ultimate gaming experience on a console anywhere.
As a gamer myself, I'm always looking for that tool or technology that'll allow games to go to a whole new level, and to bring that tech to the games community so that the creators can best take advantage of it. As for what that whole new level is, I think we'll just have to wait and find out what Todd Howard and Neil Druckmann and Sam Houser and the like create next.
Going back to the console generation before our current one, the 7th generation of game consoles, which included the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and the Nintendo Wii, I think the biggest surprise by the end of the generation was just how successful the Xbox 360 was. Microsoft made a statement being so competitive, nearly beating out the PlayStation 3 in console sales, and largely why they were so successful was because of their unique, new first-party exclusive franchises, which included Halo, Gears of War, Fable, and Crackdown, but also key third-party exclusivity deals which included BioWare's original Mass Effect, although in the years to follow it would eventually be ported to both PC and the PS3. Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 4 had both of its 2 story DLCs come first to the Xbox 360, eventually again coming to PC and the PS3 over a year after its Xbox debuted, and then Activision's Call of Duty had DLC content like map packs come first to Xbox Live. Back about 10 years ago, these exclusivity deals were massive, and Microsoft spent a lot of money to make them happen. Heck, in 2006, Microsoft shocked the gaming industry at E3 when it was revealed Grand Theft Auto 4 would be releasing simultaneously on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. One analyst stated that Microsoft had paid around $75 million to ensure Grand Theft Auto 4 did not debut first exclusively on PlayStation. And this payment was not just for this, it was also used to get Rockstar to release Grand Theft Auto 4's 2 story DLCs first on Xbox 360. So Microsoft made some big baller moves with the Xbox 360 and it paid off. Although when time came for the launch of this current generation of the Xbox One, things simply put fell apart, and really I've been firm on this stance for a long time, but Microsoft was not ready and their mistakes cost them this generation. That's obvious based on how lopsided sales have been this generation, with Sony's PlayStation 4 dominating, just breaking 100 million earlier this year. Microsoft though began this 8th generation of game consoles in disaster, and really they've been trying to recover since, playing a game of catch up. In 2013, following the first reveal of the Xbox One, outrage erupted over some of the very anti-consumer plans that Microsoft announced. As Kotaku's Jason Schreier outlined at the time, Microsoft had made plans for the Xbox One that included a requirement for players to connect to the internet once every 24 hours in order to keep the Xbox One playing games, a DRM measure. You would also have to activate each game by registering it on the web before playing. The Xbox One would also restrict the way that game discs discs are traded, borrowed, and shared, limiting the number of people who could own and play each game and restricting trade-ins on a publisher-by-publisher basis. What followed was a Mike Tyson knockout punch from Sony, who at E3 2013 announced pretty much the exact opposite features for the PlayStation 4, including a $399 price tag for the console, which was $100 less than the Xbox One. Following this E3 showcase, it resulted in Sony receiving universal praise from consumers and really just made Microsoft look even worse, which is why about a week after this E3 showcase, Microsoft announced that they were abandoning their original plans, but it was too little too late. The damage was already done. So I know we're going through a lot of gaming history to start this video, but it really is important to understand Sony and Microsoft through the years. The rise of the Xbox 360 was a big deal. The disaster of a launch for the Xbox One was a big deal. And the dominance of the PlayStation 4 this generation has been a big deal. Sony began this generation listening to gamers, and it certainly helped that Microsoft stumbled right out of the gates. But really, almost this entire generation, Sony has delivered with amazing exclusive games, from God of War to Bloodborne, to Horizon Zero Dawn, to Uncharted 4, to Marvel's Spider-Man, to The Last Guardian, to Uncharted The Lost Legacy, to Infamous Second Son, to Detroit Become Human, to The Last of Us Remastered, to Until Dawn, to Shadow of the Colossus Remake, to Persona 5, to Nier Automata, to Days Gone, and to Death Stranding. Indeed, some of these games did later release on other platforms or plan to release on other platforms, but the exclusivity or timed exclusivity has greatly benefited PlayStation. Quality exclusives is really the difference maker this generation. Sony still has massive exclusives to come for the PlayStation 4, which includes The Last of Us Part 2, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Ghost of Tsushima, while Microsoft on the other hand has struggled this entire generation to deliver exciting top quality or Game of the Year level exclusives, relying on their now older franchises which just don't have the draw that they once had. It probably also helps that this generation Sony has gained key third-party exclusivity deals, from Activision's Call of Duty to Bungie's Destiny to Rockstar's Red Dead Online to Kojima Productions' Death Stranding. Either way, both Sony and Microsoft through the years have made mistakes, but with this next generation right around the corner, both gaming companies are and have been making very good decisions for the future. Now, let's get a little bit more specific with both gaming companies' next generation plans and how they compare, because quite a bit has been revealed just recently. Like for example, while Sony's PlayStation 5 is a single next generation gaming console, Microsoft's Project Scarlett, which was first revealed at this year's E3, is not, based on current reports. Microsoft is developing two next-gen gaming consoles, one codenamed Anaconda, which is the higher-end console that has more power than the second, which is codenamed Lockhart, which is a cheaper, digital-only next-gen gaming console. As Kotaku just reported the other day, the belief many had was that Lockhart was cancelled, but that apparently is not the case, as game developers are preparing to support both Anaconda and Lockhart. But right now, one game developer briefed on Lockhart compared it to the PlayStation 4 Pro in terms of raw graphical power, although there are other key differences that might make up for that. Lockhart is said to have a solid-state drive, like both Anaconda and Sony's upcoming PlayStation 5, which is expected to have a significant impact on loading times. Developers briefed on Lockhart also say it has a faster CPU than any current video game console, which could allow for higher frame rates, although there are other factors that might not become clear until the console is completely finalized, such as clock speed and cooling. So moving along, I'm not really going to concentrate too much on the actual hardware, but with graphics on the screen right now, I should emphasize I'm comparing the PlayStation 5 up against the next generation console Anaconda, which is part of this Project Scarlett initiative. The important thing to note is that both Sony and Microsoft are taking giant leaps in terms of power, with Anaconda being described as 4 times as powerful as the Xbox One X, and the PlayStation 5 being 4 times faster than the PS4 Pro, which is extremely impressive. While there have been various insiders claiming one console is faster than the other, as Kotaku reported, the consensus among game developers, at least for now, is the power of Anaconda and the PlayStation 5 is roughly similar, which essentially means the big differences between the consoles will come with features and or technical edges that are being kept under wraps for now. In terms of what we know know about planned features and technical details for each console, again, it's very similar, with both still including disk drives. The Anaconda has GDDR6 memory, they both have a solid-state drive, actual storage size is still unknown, but both will probably be 1 terabyte. Both are aiming for at most 120 frames per second, a max resolution of 8K. The PlayStation 5 will have VR support, while Microsoft has said they will not. The PlayStation 5 will have 3D audio, and both will have backwards compatibility, although how far Sony goes with it remains to be seen. I'd argue that one of the big strengths of the Xbox One was its backwards compatibility program. For sure, something that Sony missed this current gen. But for the PlayStation 5, we know at the very least there will be support for PlayStation 4 games. Now, another aspect or feature that both the PlayStation 5 and Anaconda will include is ray tracing, which at E3 2019, when showing a new trailer from Microsoft's Flight Simulator 2020, it was evident that the game was utilizing this technology, which essentially improves the lighting, shadows, and reflections of a game's world, making it look or act realistic. For many, though, graphics are important, but pales in comparison to performance, which is why it's a good thing that both Sony and Microsoft are prioritizing that with their next-gen consoles. As most of you have seen by now, Sony has publicly displayed just how powerful or fast the PlayStation 5 is compared to the PlayStation 4 Pro. Earlier this year, in this now viral clip, the next-gen console takes less than a second to load a Spider-Man level, and as the clip continues, we get an even greater idea of the jump in performance from the PS4 Pro to the PS5, as the free camera zooms through the open world of Spider-Man with ease, which I mean, this is just a glimpse of what Sony is looking to achieve with their next-gen console. They have said that making this possible is thanks to an ultra-high-speed SSD, which should make loading screens a thing of the past, enabling creators to build new and unique gameplay experiences. Meanwhile, Microsoft is also looking to do the same. We've heard that for Project Scarlett, they're creating a new generation of SSDs and using the SSD as virtual RAM. They believe this should boost performance by 40 times over the current generation. Crytek, the developer of Crysis and more recently Hunt Showdown, stated that the faster SSDs could be the real game changer, because apart from the obvious advantage of crushing loading times, it will open up quite a lot of possibilities for games to be designed for it with regards to streaming. That's also a front on which game engines will need to evolve quite drastically, but it's definitely exciting. Chameleon Games' studio head said that the PlayStation 5's SSD is great because loading times are a pain and it's hard to mask them away. We had to think very hard about it on current gen because we didn't want loading screens, so we had to design levels around that. For example, making a tunnel a bit longer than necessary, or creating an intermediary cave level, so the next big level would load in time without a loading screen, since a regular HD is quite slow. An SSD would make it easier to focus on what is the most fun. Naughty Dog's president has said that he thinks the SSD for the PlayStation 5 will allow us to deliver content in a way that has no friction for the players. They'll never have to wait to dive back into their games. Traxmaster Software believes we're going to see SSDs have the biggest impact on open world titles that constantly stream textures and models into a scene. The developer behind Warface has also said that the SSDs planned are the most important improvement for both the PlayStation 5 and Project Scarlett. Another piece of tech that many developers are excited about is the GDDR6 memory Microsoft is planning for Project Scarlett, which Microsoft has claimed will usher in resolution and frame rates that we've never seen before in console gaming. Boxfrog Games has said that the GDDR6 memory is going to be a big boost to development. Developers of the co-op action RPG Kill Squad explain that the memory will allow games to quickly load assets for better and more immersive game worlds, especially when it works in conjunction with the system's SSD. One More Level, developer of the upcoming cyberpunk first-person platformer Ghost Runner, said that the memory will definitely help to generate the frames faster as the GPU stall will be shorter during the data transfer. Anyway, in layman's terms, the next-gen consoles from Sony and Microsoft are going to see real performance improvements that tons of developers are excited about utilizing, because for many of them, they've been held back and had to make compromises, but next-gen that shouldn't be the case and will certainly fuel creativity. Now, up to this point in this video, I think it should be clear when comparing the next-gen plans of both Sony and Microsoft, a lot of the technical aspects and even features are similar, which is why I do think, like it has been multiple times before, what will decide the next generation of consoles is games and software. I cannot underscore this enough. What Microsoft is doing with the Xbox Game Pass right now is one of the best things to happen for gamers in a long time. All Microsoft developed games being available day one through the subscription service with no additional cost is a big deal. And I should add that the actual third-party game selection for this service has been pretty darn solid. All Microsoft really needs to do moving forward into the next generation is create some home run exclusive games, like Sony has done all generation long with the PlayStation 4. It sounds easy saying, but this has been a major weakness for Microsoft, but clearly they recognize that, which is why they've made a real effort to go out and purchase some real talented game studios. We actually saw some of that talent this year with Obsidian's The Outer Worlds, which released on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC to universal acclaim, with many, including myself, considering it a Game of the Year contender, which says a lot since the game's scope was pretty limited. Now, this game was not a Microsoft exclusive because Obsidian had previously had a deal in place with Take-Two Interactive to publish this game, which happened before Microsoft purchased Obsidian, but moving forward, The Outer Worlds is a Microsoft-owned franchise, which means that future installments likely will be exclusive to PC and Xbox. I also believe that The Outer Worlds has proven that if Obsidian gets the resources or funding that they want, they can create something truly remarkable, which may just be the home run Microsoft needs next gen. Outside of just Obsidian's potentially great future, maybe with The Outer Worlds 2, we know that a new Fable game is on the way from developer Playground Games, and Microsoft's launch game for their next-gen console is Halo Infinite, which at this point in time, I don't really know what to expect from developer 343 Industries. But that really is the full extent of what we know about first-party exclusives coming with Scarlett, which I mean, if we compare this up against Sony's potential future lineup for the PlayStation 5, I just have to say it, Microsoft has a lot of catching up to do. This is a key area that must improve, where again, another generation of Xbox will be well behind PlayStation. Seriously though, Sony smartly acquired Insomniac Games recently, developer of Marvel's Spider-Man, who are now reportedly working on a sequel due out sooner than some may have expected. But beyond that, we know a Horizon Zero Dawn sequel from Guerrilla Games should be revealed soon. Sony Santa Monica is working on a sequel to arguably last year's Game of the Year, God of War, and as I've emphasized before, Sony has a lot of talented studios who have proven that they can create new innovative franchises that people fall in love with. The way Microsoft and Sony have gone about game development has been quite different, with Microsoft really looking to variety with the types of games that they are delivering, which means a mix of live service multiplayer and single player experiences of varying genres, while for the most part Sony is really concentrated and catered to single player story driven games. Will that change? It's not entirely clear, but throughout 2019, Sony has hinted that we could be seeing some of their first-party studios trying out multiplayer. Back in February, the now former Sony Worldwide Studios chairman Sean Layden said his biggest regret with the PlayStation 4 was its lack of AAA multiplayer titles along the lines of Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto Online, and Fortnite. We've been going really heavy into story-driven gaming, the power of the narrative, big spectacular experiences, but not a whole lot in the multiplayer side of things, I think. That's an area where you will likely see us start to make more noise in the new term. So what that necessarily entails is anyone's guess at this point, but it clearly sounds like there will be more variety coming from Sony next gen, which I certainly believe some will like that and some not so much. So finally, to the last key details with these next gen consoles is design and cost. We still don't really have a great idea of what either the PlayStation 5 or the Scarlett consoles will look like. Of course, there's all kinds of crazy concepts that people have made, but nothing official. Although an image of a PlayStation 5 dev kit along with a controller did leak recently, which led to a lot of strong opinions on that specific console design. But this is not what the actual PlayStation 5 console will look like. You can compare the PlayStation 4 up against the PS4 dev kit and they look nothing alike. That's definitely the case here again. But what is real in this image is the controller. That is the new DualShock 5, or I'm assuming that's what it's going to be called, which based on a patent looks almost identical to the DualShock 4, except Sony removed the light bar, there's now a USB-C port, and the addition of adaptive triggers for the L2 and R2 buttons, which can be programmed by game devs to give players different levels of resistance, creating, I suppose you could say, a more satisfying feeling when doing certain actions with the controller. Now, price is going to be very interesting. These console makers always operate on a loss with each console sale, with the belief that they'll make their profit through software. And that will of course be the case again, as the tech that they are planning to use is not cheap at all, but very interesting interestingly, Xbox head Phil Spencer at XO19 already declared, I would say a learning from the Xbox One generation is we will not be out of position on power or price. If you remember the beginning of this generation, we were $100 more expensive, and yes, we were less powerful. And we started Project Scarlett with this leadership team in place with a goal of having market success. A lot of people forget one of the mistakes Sony actually made with the PlayStation 3 was launching with a cost of $599. It contributed to a rocky launch in which clearly Sony greatly overestimated interest and how much consumers were willing to pay. With the PlayStation 5, Sony has stated that they are currently analyzing the cost and what is the acceptable price in the market, which right now rumors indicate that price tag could be $499. But whatever it is, I have to imagine Microsoft will likely match their Anaconda next-gen console to the PlayStation 5's cost, and then for $100 less, sell the lower-end, digital-only, less powerful Lockhart next-gen console. But right now, the good thing for both of these gaming companies is that they have been very careful thus far, and appear much more prepared for this next-gen jump compared to the last one. For Sony, it really is about staying the course with the PlayStation 5, and continuing to deliver groundbreaking experiences while hopefully expanding their PlayStation Now service into something similar to Xbox's Game Pass program. For Microsoft, what it comes down to is delivering top-tier experiences, especially single-player. They've acquired a lot of talent, and hopefully that will translate to some Game of the Year contenders in the years to come. But I cannot stress this enough. What will decide the battle of 2020 and beyond is good exclusive games and deals. Both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox 2 or Scarlett, or whatever these next-gen Xbox consoles will be called, are powerful, having similar specs and features, giving developers more tools to be creative and try new things while giving players hopefully more fluid, comfortable, enjoyable experiences. But what's going to matter the most, no matter what, is the exclusive content, which will of course separate the two. Based on a Twitter poll I have up, I asked which next-gen console people were leaning towards, and so far the answer is clearly the PlayStation 5, based on over 4,300 votes. Reading some of the top responses, it supports my belief that exclusives matter, but additionally for the more hardcore gamers, Xbox exclusives are no longer just Xbox, as most are released on PC, which Microsoft continues to branch out to. What that means is, for at least some, there isn't a need or necessarily a reason to get one of these next-gen Xbox consoles, as most of the games should be coming to PC, and it also helps that Microsoft has their own Game Pass program set up for PC players. But anyway, the next-gen fight is nearly upon us, and will only continue heating up as we enter into 2020. But right now, I leave you with one simple but big question. If you had to choose, which next-gen console are you leaning towards purchasing? Let me know your thoughts and answer down the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games, and again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.